Here we are. Yeah,
Hi guys.
usually when we go back to these seats, it's like there's usually
Yeah,
you're usually the one like squeaking to get back in the
I
seat.
know. I know
But
it
I
is.
pressed the button today. I hit the red button. Anyway, it is Friday, but this is a Stat Friday,
Yes, not a
not a regular
not a
live Friday. That's
yeah.
next week. So while we're here, obviously, let's get right down to business.
Yes.
It is stat time, and we're going to go over the Jersey stats for
January.
right. And yes, it is January,
Yeah.
uh, but we're doing Monmouth and Ocean.
Monmouth and Ocean stats for
Your
January.
favorite place,
I do love it.
the
It's almost
Belmars. The
almost that time of year.
You excited?
Yes, I am.
And it's the shore is definitely it's still defying the odds pretty much for real estate because the numbers nationally aren't that great,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of things on the national level. So before we even get into those things, 6.7 is the around what the average interest rate is, which is not horrible, relatively speaking. I'm sure as time seems to be moving on, the new normal seems to be setting up with interest rates being somewhere around this level, 6.7, 6.5 at the lower end, maybe even trickled down to 6.4. And then on the high side, it's peaked about 7. So we're here in this environment now that, like, I think sellers, buyers, and are kind of, they're not as much in a holding pattern. It's going to show in these numbers locally.
Mm-hmm.
But nationally, it seems like there is there's some weakening happening nationally. On a national level, there's been weakening. One of the biggest things in the last 2 quarters, is inventory in certain places have risen. Places like the Carolinas, places like Florida, places like Arizona, which have typically the real estate markets have seen. Those markets seem to be much more volatile than other places. They kind of swing with the momentum of the time. So when there's and one of the biggest things is what I call, these are speculative markets. A lot of speculative investment in these areas because typically they're so much cheaper, and when they rise quickly. The problem is that on every train there's a last stop, and unfortunately, in those areas where the last stop has kind of moved itself into, is not, let's say, optimal if they purchased in the last 2 years in places like Florida, and places like Arizona. So
Mm.
nationally, things have, it's the lowest turnover in 30 years. So for agents, this is not a great market.
No.
Agents around the country, this is it's the strangest of markets because it's like a win. There's fewer players in the market, and it's a smaller market, so it's not. That's a difference than in the past. So it's like just, some people would say, "Oh, it's a great market." Some people would say it's, because prices have accelerated, obviously, but it's coincided with everything else. So I don't think, like, for anybody who's like thinking, "Oh, well, real estate is appreciating," it yeah, it's your dollars that aren't. And that's been the problem with real estate now for the last couple of years, is that, it's a good sign of where inflation's kind of sat. But in certain places, it's done better than others. And the one place it has done better, Monmouth and Ocean Counties, a lot of New Jersey in general, has defied a lot of the market nationally, and has performed better than New York for the most part. I think Manhattan hasn't seen as robust increases, but there's that little thing called divergence.
Divergence.
Yes, that's where we see things kind of like separating between expectations, where people's expectations are riding higher a faster pace than the market is. And that's where we're going to get into the troubling sign. If I said if there's any trouble, it's in that. So why don't we go through the numbers, Carrie? What do you have?
Yeah. So I always start off with the days on the market.
Yes.
So the days on the market are up year over year, almost 8%, and also up month over month, 5%. So it's at 41 days.
Yes, this has steadily trickled upward. And while it's year over year, 41 is been a number that we've broken in the 30s and we've had into 40. So days on the market in Monmouth and Ocean counties have gone up. And that's symbolic of what's going on nationally. In this particular case, I always look at months inventory as being a better gauge, but it is starting to trickle. That's a year over year difference. So it went from 38 to 41, 7% year over year, 5% month over month. Now, people will say these numbers are so small that it's only a couple of days. What are we talking about? A house is staying on the market for an extra 3 days from January 2024 and from a year ago, an extra 3 days. So it's not really. I think at those numbers is consequential. The real question is does it keep up to like 43 to 47 to 50? Is the trend developing? That's something I think in the coming months, if you're watching these things, we'll watch. I think because days on the market is a pretty good leading indicator as to where we're going to be going versus where we are right now. And that's something we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
It continues to increase.
And the month's inventory is also up month over month, 14%.
Yeah, that was a now some of this is seasonal. So we get a little bit of bump up in inventory this time of year. Some of it's seasonal, but it's notable. Seasonal, but notable. A 14% increase in months inventory. So it basically, this is if the houses came on the market right now and nothing else came onto the market at this given moment, how long it would take for it to sell off. That is at a total of 2.5 months, 2.51 months, 2.5, and it's up from 2.2 in December, but last January is at 2.51, 2.54, excuse me. So is it month over month difference? We'll see how that number pans out. I'm looking at that cumulative days on the market being the increase to be a little bit more weighted here, which is something we need to watch. But there is these are signs that there's a level of divergence. I did not take my iPad, so I cannot read that.
It says, "Do you know?"
Tom, I can't read it.
Big. I don't know. I don't know.
We'll figure it out
later.
My apologies. But the big thing is the days, the months inventory and current days on the market it's definitely not as robust as it was. So we have to see how that pans out for the spring. Although it looks like the spring market is not too bad so far and based on activity. I saw it. I saw it.
Oh, you see it?
Yeah, it's nothing. It's
okay.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, guys.
And that's from our TikTok audience.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, we are on several platforms at the same time. But let's get into the next numbers so we can continue.
The sale to list price ratio. So the sale to list price ratio month over month has increased 0.10% year over year and increased 0.40% month over month.
Yeah, so basically it's 1/10 to 1%.
Yeah.
Year over year. Sales to list price ratio, it's negligible. But when you start combining all three of these numbers together, I just want to be clear. When you start putting these three numbers together, it's not necessarily painting a picture that like there's much more upside to the markets right now based on this. Like, so if I said to you, well, based on these early these indicators, these leading indicators, it's not conducive to what I would say is driving the market in up. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. There's nothing that says, oh, we're really going much higher than we are now, even though some of these like lagging indicators show that they have, but they've even slowed down some, which is proving that the market has kind of not been as robust. And this is water seeks its own level, and everybody kind of gets the idea like we're just going to keep going up at a very rapid pace, which is absolutely not going to happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing here that says there's a long term. Right now, we're kind of in a and there's other things going on here. Like
Yeah.
I just read a report that said delinquencies have begun to rise again in real estate. Like delinquencies are up, credit cards are up substantially. Credit cards are at their highest level ever.
Wow.
But I think again you have to take that as a inflation based, right? I don't know if it's much more than it was, but based on inflation. However, delinquencies are past pre-pandemic levels, so people are that's those are the cracks, and I hate to say that. You want to see it's like little splits and cracks, and like are things going to continue to get better based on those things? It's showing a little bit of weakness in the consumer, and that's also reflected. Let me get into that. Consumer confidence was down substantially this month, and I think markets reacted to that today.
Mm-hmm.
That consumers are reacting to that, are reacting in a way that's a little bit more. Uh, they're not as optimistic as they were a few months ago, which is I kind of tend to expect that. There was a bounce there for a little bit in terms of there was a bounce in consumer confidence after the election, and it seemed pretty. I think some of that's come down a bit. The exuberance of change, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and reality is still reality. Things do not move as fast as people would imagine they would,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's showing up now. So the euphoria stage has kind of settled itself out.
Yeah. Um, like the new listings are up month over month.
That's new listings though that seasonal it's up what 62%, right?
The new average listings.
New listings are up 62%.
Oh, did I say new listings? I
Yes.
meant new average listings. Sorry.
Oh, the new average listing price is at 9%. So
Yeah.
14% month over month. These are people putting their house 14 uh they're up 14% higher
Mm-hmm.
than they were a month ago,
Yeah.
meaning that the types of houses that are going up are more expensive. So people's expectations are rising faster than definitely the market's
Yeah.
showing or indicating here. So it's definitely something. I've said this before. It's like this is where like you start to see that D word divergence,
Mm-hmm.
where people's expectations are not meeting where the market is going, especially at this rate. I just someone else made a comment there.
Yeah.
Cole something.
I can't see
I
that.
don't want.
Um, yeah. But the sold medium sale is up month over month, 4.35%
Yeah.
too.
So, but the sold median sold price again. This is and year over year difference. The sold median is 11%.
Mm-hmm.
So it continues to it's ascent. 563,500 is it's a new high. So we keep breaking records in the sold median sale price in Monmouth and Ocean County.
Mm-hmm.
It just and um, it's one of those places that I mean, when you say the sold median sales price, that's better than a good majority of the country. So Monmouth and Ocean Counties have still um, they've defied the gravity over the last year. But again, that may be a lagging indicator because, like I said, some of these other numbers aren't as spectacular. I don't know if that levels out. That's something, I had thought for a time, maybe 2 years ago, when we did these reports, I had thought for a time prices would start to come down a little bit. They did marginally with rates. I think one time we were approaching like 8%, and it was
Mm.
noticeable change in the market sentiments overall. So it was a big change. But I do think that the changes there are really it's setting up for numbers that seemingly defy the national averages. And like I said, when we look at the big picture, some of these other numbers aren't as great. I don't know if that continues at that rate, but 11% is notable. Four of it coming month over month, 4% difference in month over month. And I do think, again, we had talked about this when we did the Staten Island stats a week ago, that some of this was an exuberance bounce after the election. We saw a
Mm.
bounce overall, and I do think there's some degree of that. There was just a little bit more exuberance in the market, um, and that's when about these houses would have closed. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to see if that wears off a bit. I don't know because, like I said, that's lagging. We're looking at this lagging indicator. I mean, this is what's happened versus what's going to happen, which is what we started at the beginning of the segment. That's the average days on the market and months inventory.
Mm-hmm. Now, why is there such a difference between the sold average sale and the sold medium sale year over year? So the sold average sale is 9%,
Mm-hmm.
and the sold medium sale is 11%.
Usually it work conversely. Usually, that's the data samples that this is what happens in low volume markets, the ones that we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
So that really brings up an interesting point. Why is there a difference between sold average sales, so sold median? And it really has to do with the amount of data that comes in and how it's median is like it takes the numbers off the top and the bottom and gives you like the median average between the taking off the top and the bottom. And usually it works conversely, where the sold average um, is usually higher. And then this is one of the odd circumstances where it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the sold average sale was 698,000, and the sold median was 563. This I had talked about this before, that I think they've bought smaller housing, which has impacted these results a little bit, especially in the medians. There's just very low data. The data samples are considerably smaller, so you get these kind of strange anomalies when you're reading the data. So it's definitely some of the things that I would say would be an issue, could be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because people will view the data and say, well, it's gone up an X amount based on these factors. I saw that the sale prices are up. Sale prices are up, but again, in these two instances here, um, don't expect that we should be going like crazy with these prices to go like right now 14% over with the sold average sale prices. 14% is where really people are putting their house in the market extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, the new average listing is at 790,000. The sold average sale is at 698. So that means there's some price cuts built into this. I would definitely say that that's really what's happened here. A lot of people go on the market at a much higher price, and then they'll settle their prices down. They'll cut the prices, which is not reflected in the data. So that's why you're seeing this. But it seems to be they're off kilter here.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of whack. So this is where I think I have some issues with this report. That could be a little bit, while it's overall healthy, that's the only thing that kind of stands out in this whole report, is the new average listing price coming to 14% higher uh,
Last
than it
month.
was month over month, and then 9% year over year, which coincides 9% and nine. The sold average sale price was 9% as well, and 11% on sold median. So it's not. It's just that month over month. So the people that have gone on the market this month have obviously, yeah. Let me just hit that.
Yeah, it says low battery.
Yeah,
We're back.
I think that starts. That phone always gives me problems.
Yeah. No, it's outside sometimes.
Phones. But anyway,
Okay.
that's where we are with that.
Yes. Next up is the new listings. So the new listings have increased month over month, 62%.
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
A lot of new listings, guys. Now that's where we're going to get. Now that's seasonal. Most of that seasonal it's not seasonally adjusted, so it looks obviously huge, but it's not. But I would pay attention to this. The absorption rate, which is that month's inventory number, across the country, people have really put their houses up a lot. There's been a lot more inventory of late. We have to see in the state of New Jersey if that's going to continue. Because what we're seeing is now some places reaching that close to 6 months of inventory on the market, which is like the balance between a buyer's market and a seller's market. We're at 2.5 months here in New Jersey, so
yeah,
we're kind of like in line with the kind of like where the expectations would be for a seller's market still. But does that change? That's the question. Does it change? Will it change? I'm not sure, but it's something we need to pay attention to. Again, that's a 62% increase. So the active listings from a year ago are up though, right?
Yeah, they're up 10%.
From a year ago. So there's 2,800 to almost 3,100 now. That's different than we saw here. In Staten Island, it was down.
Yes.
So in New Jersey, there's more active listings than there were a year ago by a pretty good chunk, 300 houses.
Yes. And
it makes you pause for a second. Things that kind of like, lost for, oh, I love her boots. I guess they like your boots.
Oh, thank you. Steve Madden.
You can't. They got to give you an endorsement here. They got to give you free boots for you to mention their name.
Okay. I'm not.
Steve Madden, if you heard that, you could sponsor Carrie's boots.
Yes.
She'll take free boots.
Yeah.
I mentioned Steve Madden 1,000 times.
I will. Are you kidding me? I'll wear them everywhere.
There you go.
We're getting.
What would you need to buy a house? You definitely need some cash for sure. But obviously your credit worthiness is obviously. So if anybody's watching on these platforms, we're kind of dealing with a couple of things. How much you need to, I guess, save up for a house. That depends on the market. And this is a question that's coming in from TikTok. Our friends at TikTok. TikTok is a pretty robust community. So we'll definitely, really what I want to tell you is in that particular case, it really depends on the market you're in. This is an interesting thing because FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac are on the short leash of agencies that may be losing government control. So a lot of people are afraid that with this change, that the end of the 2% down payment, so you could purchase a house under FHA, and definitely like VA loans, you could do actually with almost no money down. So you could do it with as little as 2% down. So 2% down is still available, and that can be done with concessions, from what I understand. You know, obviously we could point you in a direction once if that's what you look to do, but you'd only really need. Look, I'm not going to tell you though that I do think at the end of the day having a good balance sheet at home is going to be imperative to your purchase, because one of the biggest things about the home purchase is all the other things that are associated with a home, which is roof. I mean, hopefully you're buying a house with a great roof, but not in every case you can afford everything to be perfect. Um, so the cost of home ownership has definitely increased a bit there too. So you'd want to have, it, I mean, I would say based in today's day and age, if we were talking like in the New Jersey market, it's 500. You know, a good. I mean, you really want that 20% because of the rates being what they are. The more money you put down, the less you're gonna have to pay on the. Or I don't know why more people don't use this. Is paying a little bit more principal up front on your loans. If you have it, you'll save ducats of money. And there's some data, and you could do it on a calculator. If you go to prepay your mortgage, or Google it up, they'll give you a calculator. You could save considerable amounts of money paying small portions, even as little as 50, 75, $100 extra a month on a loan in a high interest rate environment isn't the worst idea. You'll save ducats. I mean, because just so you know how mortgages work is they're amortized, right? So there's a schedule, and that's why banks love refis, because the schedule is you pay all the interest at the beginning of the loan first, and then you work your way down to the principal. But if you make additional payments a month and it's applied to the principal, you will bring that number down considerably sooner. So it's just one of those things that you don't need to have a great down payment, but if you do get extra money here or there, and when there's a little bit higher of an interest rate, you could save yourself quite a bit of money over the long term, and you could do that homework. If you Google it up, there's a calculator out there that actually shows you how much you save. I think Bankrate actually shows you how many payments you make if you prepay $50 or something along those lines, how much of a difference it makes in the long term. And I don't think that's a bad idea. But the interesting thing is with inflation, and this is why I tell people people are kind of dismayed by the housing market in general, especially people who are buying, is because their expectation, it seems like they're waiting for something to change, like with house prices to come down, and I've done this so many years, and I've had this conversation so many times. I mean, this conversation that we're having here is something that I've had so many times that we've always thought, like, at some point, I think, remember in 2016, 17, it was like a very low inventory situation. Again, prices were not moving, but like this, it never seems to come to fruition that housing prices really come down a whole bunch. That's a long one. Basement, so my neighbors can't hear any. I don't know. I don't think we need to.
Oh, okay. I can't read that one.
That's good.
Okay.
Do you even have your glasses on?
I have contacts in right now.
Oh, you have your contacts in.
Yes.
I need contacts. I hate wearing glasses.
Yeah, I love my contacts.
I was just talking about that how earlier. I was like, it's funny when you see these things on YouTube. You're always looking in, and it's like you always
I'll
see
let you do the looking.
I want her as my real estate agent. She's not a real estate agent.
I'm not an agent.
Sorry. I don't know.
Not an agent.
She's not an agent. Maybe not yet. But the the big thing is that the report here, to kind of give you a highlight of what we kind of went over here. In Monmouth and Ocean Counties, I think we've seen a little bit of divergence. While the market is healthy, I still remain a little bit less bullish on like where we're heading than we were. Some of the expectations have come down a little bit. That does not mean prices are coming down, folks. I want to make that clear, because I've never done. I've been doing this. Geez, well, it's not tall. It's 18 years, and the only time a price decline ever took place was between like 2008 and 2010, and it was so short lived, especially here. Like everybody talks about like the housing crisis being like a crisis, and it definitely did not. Like in Staten Island, I think the most, or New York, although parts of New Jersey suffered a little bit more, like in the southern parts, more than other places. But we're talking, I mean, I think it's maybe 15, 17% at the tops down. That's a lot by for real estate standards, but nowhere near like the 50% drops we saw, like in 75% drops we saw in places.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing, there's a big difference between now and then, guys. And this is why I tell you, most of the systemic failures that happen then are not in play. So most of these loans are not like dummy loans, they used to call them, where like they just, there was, and you have to know like what that was like in 2008. It was absolutely mind-bogglingly bad. Like there's a Netflix series on about this. Oh goodness, I forget what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's good, about the 2008 housing crisis, about people, workers who worked as loan originators back then, and the people who originated the loans were taking W-2 forms, and they used the same W-2 form and just change the name of the social security number.
Wow, they didn't.
And photocopy them and put them in the file like they made this money, and that's how little oversight there was to these things. And they used to bundle them up and then put them on Wall Street. And yeah, it was great. That was the time. These people, there was zombie loans. Basically, they were, you could be, at the time you could have like a $5 an hour job and qualify. They'd make you qualify.
Wow.
And they hit you with a teaser rate. So they used to call them teaser rates. So they're like, or bubble loans, where like, it was like, you didn't even pay. You want to hear this is crazy? They used to have these interest only loans that you only paid interest in the first 2 months, first 2 years, and then it was reset to your new schedule after 2 years. It was nuts. It was crazy. I mean, you have no idea like how bad it really got. But that's where we are for New Jersey. And like I said, these videos, you can actually look back and go over what we talked about.
Yeah.
If you happen to miss it, but if you do have questions, feel free to ask, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah.
And we have a very busy month coming up. Let me just one other question. Maybe I can get to this. Good. All right. We'll look at that when we come off, and maybe see what these questions are, and we'll probably answer it that way. We usually have the other IP.
I know, we forgot it today.
That's good. I can't. I won't have Kerry distracted.
I know. I'm usually like staring down at it.
Yeah, she's usually like reading the comments or staring down at them. But you don't have to do that today. You can focus straightforward. But we'll get to it right after this. We'll shut these other things off. But so the averages are up across the board. There is divergence in the new average listing price, meaning going up 14%. That's the highlight here. People are putting their house up considerably more than what the market's suggesting it should be. I guess they're doing the teaser price. That's what that's indicating. Month's inventory continues to be pretty balanced, but new listings are up, and not new listings, active listings are 10% higher this year over last year. That's a notable thing we should pay attention to. We'll see how that plays out in the next few months. But other than that, everything looks pretty decent. So I have nothing to write home about yet, and I don't think you will in this market anyway. There's nothing in the cards here. Not saying that things can't like fall off a little bit, but it would be probably mild at best, unless something more significant happened. But I don't see that. So that's what we have. It's Friday, guys. Enjoy your Friday. Hopefully, oh, and it's your dad's birthday, George's birthday.
Yes.
And happy birthday, George,
Yes.
from us at Prodigy Real Estate. Hopefully,
Happy birthday, Dad.
hopefully, he'll catch this at some point.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe we can make him a fan. But
Yes,
we could definitely, we definitely wish you a happy birthday from all of us here. And that's about it.
Yeah.
And have a great Friday. Enjoy it. Enjoy 50-degree weather, right? There's 50-degree weather next week.
Next week.
She was very careful to remind me how much of a balmy 50 degrees.
Yeah, I'm excited.
In New York City from the time we basically in the 20s for so long, 20s, maybe touch 30 for so long. Yeah. It's just been, and a lot of snow and icy conditions.
Yeah.
Not so much snow, more like icy, sloppy.
Very icy, yeah. Just
nothing, not snow you can kind of play in, right?
No. Yeah, not really. It's like very light too. Like there's.
And then like a day later, it freezes into like a big rock.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's like cement. But anyway, that's what we have, guys. Enjoy your Friday. We said that 3 times. We always continue.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Take care.